38-year-old Brenda Schaefer was missing.
Although many leads were covered, anything that came up, it was followed, it was tracked down, usually to a dead end.
Trapped in a love affair that was spinning out of control, she had decided to cut things off with her boyfriend.
We just kept exhibiting these very controlling behaviors that were getting worse and worse.
But just before the breakaway, she dropped out of sight permanently.
Ultimately, offenders like this, they prey on people, though. They do strike when you don't expect them to.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to Louisville, Kentucky, a busy metropolis famous for popular pursuits like baseball and the Kentucky Derby. Louisville also suffers from the criminal activity that impacts most major cities. In this case, obsession took control and ended in a barbaric murder. It would take a grand jury, a trial for murder, and 2 trials for perjury to deliver some justice to the victim and her grieving family. Early on a Sunday morning, police came upon an abandoned Buick sedan. The car was registered to local resident Brenda Schaefer.
The vehicle was located on the side of the road, not far from her home on Interstate 64.
During the previous afternoon, Brenda had met with her boyfriend to return some jewelry he had given her, including an engagement ring. The relationship was over, but he convinced her to join him for an early dinner.
He had asked Brenda to drive that day because he was having problems with his Corvette. There was something wrong with one of the tires, and so asked Brenda to drive on their date.
After dinner, Brenda planned to drop off her boyfriend before heading home, where she was taking care of her ailing mother. But instead, Brenda apparently drove out of town and was never heard from again.
And it wasn't like her. She always would call. She would always come home on time. Her mother realized about 3:30 in the morning that she had not come home.
So what happened to this bright and energetic medical assistant?
She was a very likable person, beautiful woman, lacked self-confidence, but just loved by everyone who knew her. She worked hard. She was very dedicated to her family.
She had a really nice family. She had a great job. So many of the aspects of her life were fulfilled, but she was missing love, and she was getting to be around her mid-30s. And I think she was just looking for that missing piece.
Was the right man right there in Louisville?
A friend introduced her to Mel Ignatow, who was about 15 years her senior. He seemed confident, knew what he wanted. He had that sort of charisma, and Brenda probably was a little bit shyer and quieter.
They had been set up on a blind date, and it was probably somebody who she would be attracted to. He was professional, he was successful at his business, he had a nice home, he had a nice boat, and she had just broken off a long-term relationship with a prior boyfriend.
Mel Ignatow, a salesman by trade, played the role of Prince Charming to a T. He flattered Brenda for several months, buying her gifts and jewelry, and soon he wanted to take the next step.
He started talking about getting married, and she wasn't ready for it, did not want to be engaged at the time.
But Mel hinted and pushed and nudged until one Valentine's Day, he proposed, and Brenda said yes.
They became engaged, but she sometimes wouldn't wear a ring in public. She didn't talk to a lot of people about it.
The romance had disintegrated over the 2 years Mel and Brenda had been together, and the engagement ring became a tool of control rather than a token of commitment.
Just became more and more controlling, not letting her see her friends, not letting her go out with anybody without him knowing where she was. She had to call and check in with him at the end of each day. If she wasn't at work, he wanted to know where she was.
At first, there's kind of like that false charm, and that can only last so long before Mel's true colors came out. And in fairness, when his true colors came out eventually, Brenda did begin to plot to leave the relationship.
She started talking to some of her friends about wanting to end the relationship. She had started seeing her former boyfriend again and was talking to him about leaving Mel Ignatow. And a lot of her girlfriends knew that she was going to be breaking up with him.
When Brenda vanished, Mel Ignatow was automatically tagged as the #1 suspect. But Mel stayed out of reach. Evidence was lacking, and investigators struggled to build a case against him.
Things were kind of at a dead end right there as far as being able to obtain evidence to really indict or arrest him on anything.
But soon, an unexpected witness would expose the truth about Mel Ignatow and what happened to Brenda Schaefer on the night she disappeared.
She became jealous and obsessive. She would follow him, she would stalk him, she would want to know where he was at all times.
Was Mel Ignatow involved in the disappearance of Brenda Schaefer? Maybe. Although there was nothing to charge him with, there was also nothing to absolve him, at least not yet. As investigators gathered more information, a sharper profile of Mel Ignatow began to take shape.
He liked to make up stories about himself. He embellished about who he was. So he had this need to be admired, a need to be adored.
He very much liked to be the center of attention. He was a narcissist. He was very controlling about everything, whether it was the cleanliness of his house, what they did on dates. Very manipulative and could be charming. He used that to control people who probably lacked confidence, especially women.
Lacking the evidence to nail Ignatow to the wall, the police suggested that he appear before a grand jury, hoping he would say something that might incriminate himself.
Mel Ignatow couldn't resist the urge to testify in front of the grand jury. Now, he didn't have to do this, but he has an ego, and they knew that they could kind of pander to this ego. So Mel finds himself in front of a grand jury, and of course he does not admit any wrongdoing in Brenda's case. He says that he loved her and that he would never have harmed her.
Then he makes a critical error in judgment. He mentions an ex-girlfriend, Marianne Shore.
And this led police and prosecutors to become curious about Marianne.
She met Mel while they were working at the company where he was employed as a salesman. She took care of his children. She was a nanny for him and knew his family well.
Marianne Shore and Mel Ignatow grew close and then dated on and off for a decade.
Mel probably was kind to her in ways that were conducive to his needs and maybe something that she hadn't experienced before.
Despite their longevity as a couple, their love affair eventually imploded.
Later on, as he started dating Brenda, he became less interested in Marianne, and she became jealous and obsessive.
FBI Special Agent Deirdre Fike was newly assigned to the Violent Crime Squad in the Louisville field office. You were fairly new to the Bureau. How did you wind up working this particular case?
They felt it would probably be good to bring me in as a fresh face and knew that it would help to have a female on the investigation.
Even after they broke up, Marianne Shore remained loyal to Mel Ignatow, but she also knew his secrets. And now that Mel had mistakenly name-dropped her to the grand jury, she took a hard look at her current situation.
I believe that she knew her life was in danger. She knew what had happened, and she was the only one that had information that could make the case.
On one side, Mel Ignatow, her shady ex-boyfriend. On the other, law enforcement officers urging her to reveal what she knew.
She had been told that her life was probably in danger and that she needed to come forward.
Finally, after almost a year and a half after Brenda Schaefer went missing, the phone rang at the FBI. Marianne Shore wanted to cut a deal.
I sat with Marianne and I just reassured her and just wanted to make sure that she was going to proceed with being able to tell us what everybody needed to know to charge Mel Ignatow with the case.
And lo and behold, at some point, Marianne Shore confesses that she and Mel murdered Brenda Schaefer.
He couldn't handle the fact that Brenda was looking at ending their relationship. He convinced Marianne to be complicit in the murder of Brenda Schaefer, and not only wanted her to be out of the picture, but also wanted Brenda to suffer and be tortured.
So you needed some kind of admission from Mel that he plotted to kill Brenda Schaefer. So Marianne was rigged for sound, correct?
I assisted in getting her wired with a microphone device, and she was instructed with some information about what needed to be said to arrest him on the charges, and the conversation didn't go quite as expected.
So the wire didn't capture the conversation you needed. Meanwhile, what was going on with Mel?
Agents that were assigned to watch Mel Ignatow at his house started to see him packing a suitcase, and because there was reasonable belief that he had the means to flee the country, a decision was made at that time to go ahead and arrest Mel Ignatow.
Investigators had to proceed delicately. One miscalculation and a killer could slip right through their fingers, along with any real justice for Brenda Schaefer.
Brenda did see the flags pretty early on, and she reacted when she saw them. Unfortunately for her, it was just a little bit too late.
Over his 2-year relationship with Brenda Schaefer, salesman Mel Ignatow pushed their love affair far beyond the bounds of sanity.
As the investigation went on and we worked with the behavioral science unit, they were able to determine that he exhibited most of the traits of a sexual sadist.
And unfortunately, that means that someone like Mel Ignatow derives sexual pleasure from really harming someone else, from inflicting pain upon them. It's really one of the scariest types of offenders we can look at in society.
Marianne Shore had dropped the hammer on Mel Ignatow, telling investigators that she had assisted him in executing Brenda Schaefer and burying the body in Shore's backyard. Even with evidence pointing directly at him, Mel Ignatow stared down his accusers.
He was in denial the whole time. He never admitted to anything. And his reaction to the disappearance of his fiancée was something that would not be a normal response.
The murder trial went off the rails when Marianne Shore, the key witness for the prosecution, delivered testimony so cold and nonchalant that people wondered if she had killed Brenda Schaefer. In the end, Mel Ignatow was acquitted.
So Mel Ignatow was a free man. He was acquitted, and he seemingly had not a worry in the world.
But 6 months later, in the house that Mel had sold to pay his legal bills, a carpet installer uncovered a plastic bag taped inside a floor vent.
There was jewelry and there were pictures, rolls of film that were undeveloped. In fact, it corroborated everything Marianne Shore had said, because these were pictures of Brenda Schaefer being raped and murdered.
On the night that Mel Ignatow tortured Brenda Schaefer to death, he directed Marianne to snap photos of each move in his twisted game. Those pictures unmasked him completely as Brenda's killer.
Mel Ignatow decided that he wanted Brenda to come to Marianne's house for what he described as a sex therapy class. And Mel was obsessed with sex, and he had decided that he really wanted to punish Brenda before killing her. So he and Marianne came up with a plan that they would come to her house where he would torture her before killing her.
So what kind of items did he choose for the so-called therapy class?
He had a murder kit which consisted of rope and chloroform and shovels, and he and Marianne, and weeks before, went and dug a gravesite in the back of her home.
On the night of the murder, after a meal at a nearby restaurant, Mel convinced Brenda to drop in on his friend Marianne Shore, and he put his sadistic plan into motion.
They spent 4 hours torturing Brenda prior to killing her. She was tied to a glass coffee table that was in Marianne's house. She was repeatedly sexually assaulted and physically assaulted.
Satisfied that he had taught Brenda her lesson, Mel used chloroform to suffocate her to death.
After she was murdered, they participated in preparing Brenda's body for the burial by folding up her body into a small package and then putting her into a trash bag, which would be buried along with her clothing that she had been wearing in a separate bag. Marianne helped him transport her to the gravesite where she was buried, back in the woods behind Marianne's house.
Mel Ignatow's guilt was no longer in question, but there was one problem. He had already been acquitted of murdering Brenda Schaefer.
Double jeopardy means in our legal system that you cannot be tried for the same crime twice if you've been acquitted. So in this case, there was no way to try Mel again.
Instead, prosecutors took a fresh approach. They stitched together 2 trials for perjury that sentenced Mel Ignatow to jail for a total of 17 years.
After he served his time, he was released and was drinking and fell into a glass coffee table, which is how he died. And it did seem to be poetic justice that he had tortured Brenda Schaefer on a glass coffee table prior to her death.
Why didn't Mel Ignatow let Brenda Schaefer go when she wanted to leave him? Police say because in his mind, he simply could not allow her to.
Because it was his way of getting back at Brenda. He wasn't going to allow her to leave him, humiliate him, and didn't want anybody else having her either.
What distinguishes this case is the type of sadism that Mel showed. This was about hurting someone and the gratification that he felt about it. He didn't feel any sympathy. He didn't feel any empathy. He simply derived pleasure from it. And I think that's what really stands out about this case and what distinguishes it from other cases involving murder by the hand of a domestic partner.
It is a sad truth that behind the veneer of the so-called perfect man might be someone like Mel Ignatow, cruel, abusive, and possibly a killer. When Brenda Schaefer agreed to date him, she didn't realize she was making a deal with the devil. And now it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. Sadly, leaving an abusive partner can be difficult, even deadly, but help is available. Reach out to a trusted friend, family member, or local domestic violence organization for support and housing resources. Avoid communicating or meeting with an abusive ex if possible. If you must meet with them to exchange items or for custody purposes, consider doing so in a public location like a police station or fire department. And for more safety information and resources, contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.